A new QB1 under center for the Rams. So the question, how big of an impact does that have? Answering that and more right after the intro.
Perfect.
Before we get too far into things, subscribe to support the channel and of course get the bell on to know every single time I'm dropping a video. And with that out of the way, it's on to the content. So the Los Angeles Rams were pretty quiet this offseason with a lot of just general re-signings besides their one giant splash this offseason in trading for a quarterback. So let's just hop right into that. The biggest offseason addition, of course, being the addition of former Detroit Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford. The Rams traded 2 first-round picks, a third-round pick, as well as Jared Goff and all $24 million plus of his dead cap to the Detroit Lions to get the dynamic quarterback that is Matthew Stafford. And by dynamic, I don't necessarily mean like he's running around all the time and making plays outside of the pocket. I mean dynamic as far as arm talent. Matthew Stafford, one of the more underrated stars in the NFL, and to be completely honest, it's because he's been playing in Detroit for his entire career. So this is a huge win for, well, the Los Angeles Rams, getting an improvement at the quarterback position, and for, of course, Matthew Stafford going to a larger market that is Los Angeles, to a potential Super Bowl caliber roster for the LA Rams. He's gonna be playing in a lot more of these Showtime games, a lot more of these Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night games with a lot more eyes on him. The world is going to get more eyes on Matthew Stafford and his talents and his abilities rather than the one time of the year around Thanksgiving that we are all reminded that, hey, the Detroit Lions also exist. Heck, in recent statements by head coach Sean McVay, he said this dude is even better than advertised and he's a bad MFer. Look, the Rams are embracing Matthew Stafford with absolute open arms. There seems to be a lot of excitement, and for good reason. As a Matthew Stafford fan, honestly, I'm excited to see what he can do with this offense because the LA Rams have a lot of great talent around the roster. But before we hop into that, what are some of the other moves they made this offseason to help improve the roster? In true Los Angeles Rams form and Sean McVay form, they went offensive, adding Deshaun Jackson, the former Philadelphia Eagles wide receiver, and in the second round of the NFL draft, adding Tutu Atwell out of Louisville, so adding a couple more wide receivers for new quarterback Matthew Stafford to throw to, along with the offensive weapons that are already in place, and running back Cam Akers, whose last year's rookie season saw him getting a few more touches down the stretch and showing some promise, and of course at the receiver position, you've got Robert Woods, who is a great slot receiver, and Cooper Kupp, one of the more dynamic, flashy outside wide receivers who can make some good routes and is surprisingly able to burn cornerbacks at the point of attack. Look, the offense is stacked up, and then defensively, you've got some good pass rushers and some good players in the secondary, starting off with Jalen Ramsey, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, and then on the defensive line, you've got Leonard Floyd coming off the edge, and in my personal opinion, the best pound-for-pound football player in the NFL in Aaron Donald, the future NFL Hall of Famer, the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year award winner, the All-Pro time and time again. Aaron Donald is an absolute freak, beast, monster. The Los Angeles Rams are trying to build a Super Bowl roster around him. And look, we're gonna do some projecting, looking at the 2021 NFL season, and taking a look and seeing what's the potential of them doing it this year. CBS Sports has the Rams schedule graded at a .515 percentage, the 10th toughest schedule in the NFL this season, and the Los Angeles Rams have a roster that is able to compete at every single level. So let's just start breaking down the week by week and doing a prediction on what their final record could very well be, because after all, this is a way too early prediction video. The opening stretch of the season, weeks 1 through 5, see the Los Angeles Rams taking on a few tough defenses. Week 1 seeing the Chicago Bears, the Indianapolis Colts in week 2, Tampa Bay, Arizona, and Seattle to round things out. Don't be surprised if they get off to a little bit of a slower start as Matthew Stafford gets assimilated into the Rams culture, into the Rams offense, and gets some game time speed coming at him with all these new route combinations, with all of these new systems. Don't be surprised if they go 2-3 here with a win over the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football and a win over the Chicago Bears, but possibly a tough stretch in between that. Week 6 through 10 see a lighter stretch of games. Week 6 seeing the New York Giants, the Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, Tennessee Titans, and San Francisco 49ers to round out Week 10. Look, the Detroit Lions game is going to be circled for Matthew Stafford. His first season away from Detroit, he's going to be playing his old team, and it's going to be all eyes on Matthew Stafford in that one. This seems like a more promising stretch for the Los Angeles Rams as a whole. I would not be surprised if they win 3 or 4 games here on this stretch, and I'm going to go a little bit optimistic here and say, hey, maybe they do nab that win over the San Francisco 49ers, because honestly, the 49ers are one of those really weird wildcard teams this year. At full max strength, they could be an absolute shocker to the NFL in the NFC West, the toughest division in football. The San Francisco 49ers were in the Super Bowl not too long ago, so it's a team to keep your eyes on, but they're a wild card simply because of the injuries they suffered in the 2020 NFL season. So the Los Angeles Rams possibly getting 3 or 4 wins here. I'm going to be a little generous, say they get 4 wins here. This is going to improve their win total to a 6-4 clip. Weeks 11 through 15, you see them getting their bye week in week 11, then taking on the Green Bay Packers, Jacksonville Jaguars after that, the Arizona Cardinals, and the Seattle Seahawks for a second time. Don't be surprised if the Seattle Seahawks come back with a vengeance here and split the series with the Rams. And during this stretch, another wild card being the Green Bay Packers, because no one really knows exactly what's going on with the Aaron Rodgers situation. And I know this video is still gonna be in, July, honestly, because we still got a long way to go till the NFL season. A lot of news can have shifted and broken by this point, but as it stands as of recording right now, Aaron Rodgers still doesn't want to play for the Green Bay Packers. There's a lot of holdouts going on with the Packers. And in this stretch, you got the Arizona Cardinals, and no one knows exactly what they're going to look like after all of their offseason additions. AJ Green, Rodney Hudson, and of course, JJ Watt. So I think 2-2 is a pretty reasonable thing to say here. There's a couple of coin flip games in the mix in this set. So with an 8-6 record going into week 16 through 18, the Los Angeles Rams are looking to punch their ticket into the playoffs, starting off with the Minnesota Vikings, then taking on the Baltimore Ravens and the San Francisco 49ers. This is a tough final push for the Rams because honestly, the Minnesota Vikings are no joke. The Baltimore Ravens are no joke. And like I mentioned, the San Francisco 49ers are a complete wild card. I'm going to be generous here and say they get a win over the Minnesota Vikings, but then you're still left with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens in that absolutely dangerous rushing attack. And then on the back end, of course, the San Francisco 49ers. So let's say even if they could split that series with the 49ers, they're going to go 2-1 during this stretch, and they're gonna end with a 10-7 record. And I don't know if 10-7 is gonna be good enough to make the playoffs. I mean, 10 wins last year in the AFC wasn't enough to necessarily make the playoffs. It just kept you in the hunt. In the NFC, there's such a tightly packed race to get into the playoffs. The win combinations over who knows what is gonna be a big deal. But I do consider the Los Angeles Rams a playoff caliber team. So let's just say they make it into the playoffs. I think they're easily a wild card or division round team, but I don't know if they're quite ready to make it to the Super Bowl. But that's just because I'm speculating. I'm not really sure, because Matthew Stafford could come out and end up being an MVP caliber level player with this offense in Sean McVay's systems. We just have no idea. So me being safe, I'm projecting them to be a wild card or division round team with some Super Bowl aspirations. I think that's a very easy thing to say because you just don't know. There's a few question marks here, and it really all just boils down to the performance of Matthew Stafford. I think it's reasonable to assume that they're going to be a playoff team. I think Rams fans should expect them to be a playoff team. And honestly, NFL fans are probably expecting them to be a playoff team. I'm rooting for Matthew Stafford here. This is like the redemption arc for him to prove that, hey, I'm not just some super talented #1 overall pick that's been stuck up in Detroit, Michigan for all his career. I'm actually going to have an impact here in the later years of my career. And heck, Stafford still got plenty of time ahead of him as long as he can stay upright and healthy. The Rams offensive line, as long as they can keep him upright and healthy, are going to have a huge responsibility, but their performance quite literally will reflect the entire season. So I'm hopeful, I'm rooting for Matthew Stafford. I'm rooting for the Rams to be successful once again, and I think it's pretty fair to be optimistic. So with all that out of the way, thank you so much for watching the video. Feel free to, of course, check me out down in the description below at all of my social medias. Like, comment, share, subscribe to support the channel, and of course, get the bell on to know every single time I'm dropping a video. My name is Tristan Blake Rines, and I'm gonna catch you in the next one. Adios.